Good morning and welcome to IrelandAM. Do you smell that? Well, that's not Martin, don't worry. That's just the weekend around the corner. Happy Friday.
Yes, we're nearly there. Coming up, Taoiseach Simon Harris is due to dissolve the Dáil today ahead of a general election on November the 29th. We'll be discussing the early shape of the race.
Joe Biden makes a plea for peace, while back here in Ireland, motor insurance premiums have rocketed at 15 times the rate of inflation. We'll be looking at those and the rest of the stories making the front of your morning's newspapers.
Shamrock Rovers edged closer towards European history with a comeback win in the Conference League last night. We'll be discussing that and the rest of today's big sports news later this hour.
The Irish talent behind Belfast's death on the Nile and Paddington. One film editor will be sharing her story from Dublin to Hollywood and back again as her latest film, Paddington in Peru, hits cinemas.
All autumn we've been travelling around the country taking in the best that Ireland has to offer for a staycation. This morning, Alan is taking a trip to the Banner County to experience some of the history, ceol agus crack.
And we'll be looking into the world of ethical pornography and exploring how it's redefining everything we thought we knew about the adult film industry.
All right, now she's having a bit of a lazy day today. What's going on with you over there?
It's very cosy altogether.
Do you fancy working at some stage?
No, I'm all right. I have the feet up.
Yeah.
I'm relaxed. You have this, don't you?
You've got the fire on as well.
I have the fire on. Honestly, look how cosy I am, guys. As autumn wraps up, we often leap straight into Christmas, but why not savour the cosy vibes of winter first? We're going to show you how to create the perfect new season aesthetic in your home before the holiday rush takes over. It's very comfy, I have to say. And not only that, but myself, Martin and Elaine were all at the Gladiator premiere last night, and we loved it so much, we've asked Paul Mescal to come on the show this morning.
Oh, cool. What time is he here at?
Well, he actually wasn't available, but we got the winner of the lookalike competition, and he'll be on.
Yay!
Yeah.
So,
but you know, it's the next best thing.
Best
yeah,
thing.
next best thing. I mean, Paul, busy schedule, couldn't really clear it for us.
Coming in dressed as a gladiator on a pair of GAA shorts that people want to know.
I would suspect the GAA short. I am hoping the GAA short.
Actually, we all stayed out very late for a Thursday night, and we only did it for Paul Mescal, really.
Yep.
The three of us and Derek. I was sitting next to Derek at the premiere of the Gladiator movie last night, but now...
Did he fall asleep?
He didn't fall asleep. He got
awake,
scared. He jump scared the whole way through. He was like, woo, 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 with all the gory bits. Derek, have you recovered? How are you getting on now? You're over the trauma.
Very jumpy. Yeah, it was a great movie, wasn't it? Loved it. Anyway, guys, we'll keep an eye out for Paul Mescal, or a lookalike. If we see them here, we'll send them your way. Anyway, following our trips to Limerick and Cork this week, we've landed back here in the heart of Dublin, and it's almost shorts and t-shirt weather out there today, because it is holding exceptionally mild for this time of year, although breaking in across the west, in through the southwest as we work our way tonight and into tomorrow. Now, Lower Leeson Street in the heart of the capital is where we're at this morning, and there you'll find the Sugar Club. And we're off to meet a man who's gone from East End to West End, from EastEnders to West End musicals, the one and only John Partridge. He's going to be chatting life, love, and his brand new one-man show called Dancing Man. So that's all to come right across the morning. I may even get my dancing shoes on. Now, where's Paul Mescal? Hello, Paul.
Probably around there somewhere. Sure, he was out partying last night, wasn't he?
And he is on Leeson Street. I mean, that's the place to be.
He's on his way home. Yeah. Anyway, let's take an opening look at the morning.
Now let's have a first look at your morning paper, starting with the Irish Examiner. It leads with 22-day election campaign to kick off today. The paper reports that Taoiseach Simon Harris will today officially begin a 22-day election campaign to decide the 174 seats in the next Dáil.
The Irish Times leads with coalition to come under intense pressure on housing. The paper reports that the government is set to come under intense pressure on housing as the opposition targets its record in the opening days of the general election campaign.
Car insurance premiums rise at 15 times the rate of inflation. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. New figures from the CSO reveals motor insurance premiums are now rising at 15 times the rate of general inflation, with above average rises also found in the cost of eating out, going to the cinema and package holidays.
Onto the tabloids. The Daily Mail's headline reads, "Years before tourists back in asylum hotels." The paper writes that hotels are set to house asylum seekers and Ukrainian refugees for years to come, as the government can't say when they will no longer be used.
The Mirror leads with Liam Death 3 charge. The paper reports that 3 people, including a hotel worker, have been charged in connection with the death of One Direction star Liam Payne.
"He told me he would kill me" is the lead in the Herald. They're reporting that the woman, who alleges she was brutally raped and battered by MMA star Conor McGregor, told her then boyfriend she couldn't say who her attacker was because he told her that he'd kill her.
The Sun also leads with that story. Its headline reads, "I was brutally raped."
And finally, the Star goes with Conor's sex claims made up.
After the break, with the Dáil set to be dissolved today ahead of the November 29th general election, we'll be discussing the early shape of the race. See you for that in 3.
Fáilte go IrelandAM. Now later on today, Taoiseach Simon Harris is due to dissolve the Dáil for a general election, with the polling date having been set for November the 29th.
Shock horror. Now joining us now to discuss this is PR consultant and public affairs commentator Shannon Cahill and political correspondent with the Irish Examiner Paul Mescal. Shannon, not the biggest surprise in the world, really, is it?
Look, I'm shocked. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I can't believe this is happening.
How is this happening?
I know.
A shock snap election.
Look, it's going to be a short, sharp campaign. I think most people are kind of happy to see it finally coming. And I think, it's going to be welcomed that that we're finally being asked, to vote on the issues at the moment, because we were just sick of hearing about an election coming up. And it was very clearly, from early in the summer, really, I think, that this was where we were going. It's just nice to get that firmly in the calendar. So Simon Harris is going to have a busy day ahead.
Yeah, he did want to push it out till February, but that was not happening.
No, I don't think most commentators expected it to get as far as February.
No, I don't think we wanted it. There's a general sense within Leinster House over the last couple of months that the energy has just kind of run out. Ministers, junior ministers were told towards the end of the summer, look, nothing new is happening here. Progress what you have on decks, see what you can get over the line before he calls an election. And everyone entered this kind of space of suspended animation over particularly the last couple of weeks, where you had this kind of situation where Roderick O'Gorman named the date, said he wanted it on November 29th. And I think that entered the public mindset as that's when the election is. So everyone within government was kind of saying, oh no, it could still be December the 6th, it could be November 29th. But everyone was leaning towards November 29th. So the public had decided that's when it was. The 3 government leaders, Micheál Martin, Simon Harris and Roderick O'Gorman, agreed that it would happen this year. Simon Harris came out and said it would happen on a Friday, but not which Friday. And then you had this situation this week where Micheál Martin goes on Virgin Media with Clare and says the Taoiseach is dissolving the Dáil on Friday, which kind of forces Simon Harris's hand to come out and say, actually, yes, I am, but it's also, this is the polling date. So you've had this kind of weird drip feed of information that everyone already kind of knows and accepts. So I'm just personally, it's going to be, for us, it's going to be manic over the next couple of weeks. I'm just really glad it's happening because we've just been sitting, waiting.
Yes.
And now 22 days and we're at count day again.
Yeah, you're on the home stretch there. The latest Ireland Think poll has Fine Gael leading with 26% of support. Do you think this figure is sturdy?
Somebody in Fine Gael said to me the other day, I'd rather be us than them. And that's not a bad way of kind of tracking where they are. Yeah, you would like to be further ahead, but you're happy enough being the ones that are, I suppose, that are leading the polls at this time. The one big thing in that poll that I found really interesting was that they also asked, they asked which party do you support, but then they asked which candidate locally do you support, and that support for Fine Gael drops to 23% when you do that. And a lot of that is to do with the fact that they're losing so many sitting TDs, 18 TDs gone. One of the things that a study a couple of years ago found was that incumbency in Ireland increases your chances of getting elected by 18%.
Wow.
So we vote for who we know. We know the person who's been on the doors. All of those seats that Fine Gael are losing TDs from, they have to re-win. They can't. It's not a hold really because you've got a new candidate. So a lot of energy has gone into that. Where Fine Gael thinks they're on is a ceiling somewhere around 50 if they have a really good day. I suppose the question is, do you hold those 18? Do you win them back? Do you hold what you have of the people who are running? And where else can you pick up seats? Because that's going to be the big thing. We know the Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Sinn Féin are likely to come back in and around where they were or with extra seats because of the bigger Dáil. We're going to 174 seats this time around from 160. So the big question is, where do you start to pick up those seats? Polling is nice. It's a nice way of tracking the trend. But if you go back to 2020, Sinn Féin won in terms of first preferences, but came third in overall seats. You want seats at this point.
I suppose when you look at what people are worried about and what people are thinking about, and Micheál Martin is very vociferous on this. He says, I've got the experience, I have the edge. He's a political operator for many, many years, both domestically and in foreign policy as well. But do you think that'll translate well to voters? And what are voters really concerned about, the main issues?
Well, first of all, in polling, after this heartbreaking week, I don't think I'll ever believe a poll again. But I think that Micheál Martin and Simon Harris are banking on this feeling that people will want stability moving forward. You've seen what we can do. You can see how the money that's in the coffers, trust us to spend it. And I think that's what they'll be going into this election with. I think it absolutely does suit them that Sinn Féin have had a rocky at best, to describe it, 2 months leading into this election. I think if we were having this conversation and the last 2 months of Sinn Féin and what happened there hadn't happened, I think this chat would be slightly different. I think that there would be, certainly from younger people, and I'm talking about those under 40 who can't buy a house at the minute, cannot get onto the property ladder. I think that opposition in Sinn Féin would have been much more of a priority for them to vote for, and I think that has shifted now, where people are looking at Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and saying, okay, you know, will I vote for the least worst? And so I think they're banking on stability. In terms of issues, I mentioned housing. Housing is a big, big issue. Yeah. And housing's not just an issue for people who can't get onto the ladder. It's the people who, it's the parents at home who have their kids of 30 and 40 living in a box room.
And their grown-up families moving back in because they've been evicted from their houses because the house is being sold or something. It's a massive, massive problem.
Yeah, and there's any myriad of issues. Healthcare, obviously, you know, the rise in the population and the impact that has had on services, and the feeling that certainly for things like healthcare, that people aren't getting access to what they need at the minute.
Well, someone asked me the other day, do we have some sort of Stockholm syndrome when it comes to the government that we have now? Because all the issues that we're mainly concerned about, which of course is housing, it is health, and it is cost of living to a lesser extent, really, because housing is the major issue. But like if the polls are to be believed, we'll be voting in more of the same.
Yeah, and this is a question that comes up a lot. How can you see mass support for a government party but also see housing as the biggest issue and see record homelessness and record house prices? I think, personally, that we're very good at answering polls. I think that we say that we care about housing when we care about access to housing on a personal level. I think housing is a proximate issue for most people. They care about whether or not they can buy a house, and once they've bought a house, they move on to the next thing. I think if a pollster rings you and says, "What do you think is the biggest issue?" and you say housing, that's very different from saying what is the biggest issue that will determine where your vote goes. I think one of the big lessons from the US election over the last couple of weeks is from the Harris campaign that didn't offer people anything personally. And I think what you're going to see here is a big play to people's pockets. And you see it already. Childcare has become the issue. All of a sudden, everyone backs capping childcare costs. Everyone backs a state-provided childcare model in some way, shape or form. Fine Gael, which has been in power for 13 years, hadn't countenanced it until a couple of months ago when Simon Harris said, yeah, there should be a state-funded childcare sector. And what they're doing there is they know that the people who 4 years ago were caught and couldn't afford houses or couldn't buy houses, that a good chunk of them have gone on and bought houses. The figures are there. They know who's buying houses. They know who's drawing down mortgages for the first time. And those people, once they've bought their house, housing policy stops being a pressing concern, and childcare becomes your focus. The cost of living becomes your focus. Energy. It's no accident that the election is called now when a double month of child benefits going to land in your bank account, that when energy credits are going to land in your bank account. It's not a surprise that Simon Harris waited until the end of this month to call the election.
We're unfortunately out of time, but I'm sure we'll have these conversations over the next 20. How many days is it? 20?
Well, it's 21 days from today.
Paul's counting down the hours.
Martin's counting down to Christmas, you're counting down to the election. We haven't even touched on the phone posters, which I'm sure we'll be talking about them another day.
Thanks so much for joining us this morning, guys.
All right, thank you both so much for joining us today. Now, up next, we have the rest of the news making today's papers, including some unwelcome updates on rising car insurance premiums. See you for that in a few minutes. Now, US President Joe Biden has said there will be a peaceful transition of power after Republican Donald Trump won the US presidential election and has urged Americans to bring down the temperature. Joining us with that story and everything else making the headlines this morning are the Irish Times health correspondent Shauna Barras and News Talk journalist Simon Tierney. Thank you both so much for joining us on the show this morning. Simon, I suppose if it was the other way around, we'd be more worried about violence in the streets in the US. But I suppose because Trump has won, the likelihood of the Democratic support base coming out and rioting is slim to none, really, isn't it?
Oh, slim to none. I think it's really interesting watching Joe Biden's speech last night at the White House. The Democrats have used their defeat as a way to send a very clear message to the Republicans and to their supporters that we're going to do this defeat very differently to the way you guys did it in 2020. We're going to commit ourselves to a peaceful transfer of power. We're going to accept the election result for a start. We're not going to make any threats about staying in the White House over our time. We're going to hold ourselves to the obligations of the Constitution. And without referring to it directly or incriminating Donald Trump for the way he did things 4 years ago, I think they've done it very, very cleverly. The other thing that he said, which I think is really important, and it's kind of a theme of Biden's presidency, is that he said, I hope for once and for all that we're going to put to bed the question of the integrity of the American election system, of American democracy. And I think that's been a really key thing for him. And in fact, in a way, in a perverse way, the fact that they've lost and that they're committing to a peaceful transfer of power can only be healthy for American democracy.
But in that, I mean, it was an emphatic victory for Donald Trump. Like the last time he won in 2016, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. This time she did. Donald Trump really won the popular vote. So there's no wiggle room there at all when you come to disputing this. So,
well, this is the first time in 20 years that a Republican has won the popular vote. The last time was George Bush's second term in power in 2004. Donald Trump has what some might describe as a terrifying mandate. He's got a much bigger mandate than the last time. What was really interesting to see over the last few days, Elaine, is that in 2016 he looked like a deer caught in headlights. He's like, what? Wait, what? We won? This time, it's almost like he knew he was going to win. He's more prepared. A second term in power is when you see a president actually carrying out what they wanted to do in the first place.
But I suppose, Shauna, when you look at that, there has been a term in between. It's not usual. Usually they're run consecutively because the incumbent normally does get in when they run the second time around. But the peaceful transition, what Joe Biden was saying that should happen. The mood about the state of world affairs now, everyone's being quite conciliatory towards US President incumbent Donald Trump, whereas last week, not so much. I mean, how will that be navigated?
Look, I guess that remains to be seen, doesn't it? But I think, as Simon kind of intimated, like it does seem positive the way that this transition is going to go. You know, President Joe Biden did offer President-elect Trump to come visit. They've taken him up on that offer, so that shows a good
dignity, at least.
Exactly, which I think would be a surprise for many people who have seen Trump in his last presidency or even in his last loss when he last ran for president. But I think, you know, the political sphere and the public sphere is quite volatile at the minute. There's a lot of animosity, but then there's also a lot of delight at his election. And I've spoken to a lot of people, and a lot of what they've told me who have voted for Trump, a lot of what they've said is, it wasn't that they necessarily liked him, it was that that's what they were anti-establishment, they were anti-Democrats, and that was what suited them best. So it's not necessarily an overwhelming victory for Trump, it's an overwhelming loss for the Democrats.
Yeah, and there is that argument as well that it was just anything, a protest vote, as it were, because of the economy was foremost in everyone's mind over there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to misquote James Carville, the old Democratic operative, it's inflation, stupid. And I think it's the thing that politicians all around the Western world are going to have to deal with, is that, I mean, American inflation is running well over 2%. It's much higher than our current rate of inflation. And people in America often will vote for themselves. They're voting for the individual. They're not voting for the greater good of society. That's not necessarily a criticism of American life. It's just the reality. And people, like Shauna said, people were very willing to park the fact that they didn't like Donald Trump as a person.
Because they wanted to better their pockets.
They wanted to vote for their wallet.
Now, speaking of inflation, lovely story as well in the newspapers this morning. Car insurance premiums in this country are rising by 15 times faster than general inflation. So take normal inflation out of it, 15 times faster. What is going on? There's been so many measures over the last number of years to temper this. It's not working.
Yeah, so like they were rising rapidly maybe 10 years ago. Then steps were taken more recently, you know, the new Judicial Council of Guidelines, because we were told at the time that the premiums were so high because the cost of claims were so high. So government were like, right, okay, how can we bring down the cost of claims? Brought in the Judicial Council Guidelines, brought in the Personal Injuries Assessment Board, which has now been renamed the Injuries Resolutions Board. All of these things actually did have a really big impact on bringing down the cost of claims and therefore the cost of premiums. But in the last...
So what's gone wrong?
Well, this is it. So the industry say that more people are on the roads, traffic is back up, so therefore there are more collisions, and that's driving up the cost of premiums. In saying that, industry are obviously going to say these things, they're going to justify the cost increases. Some of it seems like ridiculous. Like mine went up over €100, I have no claims, have been driving 6 years, and I rang them and I was like, what's going on? I was told it's going to decrease the more experience I get, and they're like, it's gone up across the board, we're just going to have to pay that. That's the cheapest we can do.
Do they think we're awful idiots?
I mean, the industry is saying that there's a shortage of car parts, that there's a shortage of labour, that car parts are more expensive, fallout from the war in Ukraine. I mean, this story isn't just about...
My dog ate my homework.
Yeah, this story isn't just about car insurance premiums. I mean, the cost of products and services in general is punishing to people. I think this is going to be... I hope this is a big issue over the next 18 or 21 days of our election campaign. I mean, I would look at a lot of consumer stuff in my own work, and if you look at a really simple example, right, Elaine, is the cost of butter, which is often a barometer of this. Before the war in Ukraine, a pound of butter, own brand, in this country in all the supermarkets cost €2.19. If you go into any big supermarket in Ireland today and buy a pound of butter, it'll cost you €3.59. So that's a very simple, basic essential that people have to buy in the supermarket. We're paying so much more.
By a third.
Yeah, €1.40 price increase on something so simple. And you see it every day. People are really struggling to pay for everyday essentials. And as we saw in the election in the States last week, people are beginning to go, well, actually, I'm not going to put up with that anymore. And I think that could be a real thing in the upcoming election campaign.
Well, as we know from the US elections, polls cannot be believed, really, can they? But on a more pleasant note, Dublin was awash with Hollywood vibes last night. The one and only Paul Mescal came home to Kildare. I was in the premiere myself, and do you know what was lovely about it? His family and his mates from Kildare, they were all up the back having an absolute ball, and it was a lovely atmosphere, I have to say. But what do you think? One of the biggest movie in the world at this moment in time, Shauna, is starring one of our own.
There's something really nice about the rise of Paul Mescal, and I think it's that we all know him from the Denny's ad. And
he hates that, I'm sure.
Well, he actually said recently, he was like, that paid for my rent for 5 months. Like, I won't hear any slander about the Denny's ad. And he's dead right. Like, we all come from small beginnings.
Yeah.
But it's just so nice because his breakout role in Normal People was during a really tough time. It was 2020 lockdown. Everyone was feeling really low, and there was just so much human connection in that role. And now this is kind of his first, because a lot of his roles since have been quite nuanced and emotional. And this is his first kind of big blockbuster Hollywood. Like, this could be enormous. And even like his cast, like Denzel Washington and Pedro Pascal, like they're enormous names. And now you have Paul Mescal, our very own, right beside them. It's lovely.
So he brought a lovely humanity to the role that I was not expecting, actually. It was a very nuanced performance. It was lovely. What, you starstruck with all the Hollywood buzz?
I wish I'd been at the screening last night.
I'll bring you next time.
Did you enjoy it?
I did, actually. I really did. Normally these long movies, I'm like, halfway through. No, I really loved it.
Well, it's really interesting what you said there. Is you said to both of us, the biggest movie in the world, and there's an Irish actor heading it. you could have said the exact same thing 1 year ago with Cillian Murphy and Oppenheimer. You know, this is...
But then Barbie, there's Barbenheimer there, which was the bigger one. We had that big debate as well.
But, you know, Paul Mescal was saying himself last night, there's something in the water. You know, Irish actors are doing amazing in Hollywood at the moment. So long may it continue.
Irish actors of the whole film industry. We have an amazing editor on the show later on who's done remarkable stuff in Hollywood. So we're all very glitzy and glam here these days. The world is falling apart, but we'll try and keep on trucking. Listen, thank you both so much for joining us on the show this morning. Now, coming up after the break, can Ireland open their Autumn International Series with a win over the mighty All Blacks? Well, we'll be discussing that after this short break.
Yes, you're very welcome back to IrelandAM. Still lots more on your way over the next 2 hours.
Yes, indeed. One Hollywood A-lister attended the Irish premiere of his latest movie, Gladiator 2, last night, but all eyes were on Dublin Smithfield Square ahead of the event when the Paul Mescal lookalike competition took place. And wait for it, we're meeting the competition's winner, GA shorts and all.
Has he got a bag of sausages?
I don't know.
Go on,
That's a
find
very
out.
personal question. I wouldn't ask him.
I was just wondering what was in his shopping bag, that's all. Behave yourself. She's the Irish editor behind a rake of Kenneth Branagh films, plus the new Paddington. We're sitting down with the Dublin-born mind behind some of our favourite movies very shortly.
Plus, we're taking a trip to Clare to see what's on offer for a staycation this winter. Stay with us as Alan takes in all there is to offer in the Banner County.
Is there really such a thing as ethical pornography? We'll explore how ethical adult content is challenging everything we thought we knew about the sex industry.
And with the Christmas season almost upon us, we'll be learning how to create the perfect winter aesthetic in our homes before the madness begins.
Now, Shiva, we need to be fed, so what's on the menu?
We're starving.
Good morning, guys. As Elaine mentioned, we're joined later by the woman who brought Paddington to life on the big screen. So today, we've a breakfast dish perfect for that famous bear. Martin O'Donnell, you've been inspired by Paddington this morning.
We've been inspired by marmalade, so we've got a delicious take on Paddington Bear's favourite marmalade sandwiches.
Okay, but you're going a bit fancier than just a marmalade sandwich, aren't you?
We're going to spice it up a bit for autumn, so we've got a lovely cinnamon toast, French toast, with some warm whiskey marmalade, mascarpone whipped cream, and some crunchy granola on top.
Paddington won't know what's missing with that one, Martin. Oh my God, my mouth is watering. Okay, Derek is out and about in Dublin City this morning. How's the November weather treating you this morning, Derek?
Gormila, Shiva, sounds delicious in the kitchen. Anyway, while you guys are on the hunt for Paul Mescal, I'm on the search for the one and only John Partridge. Now, of course, John Partridge is no stranger to the small screen, having starred in the likes of EastEnders for many years, but also on stage as well. He's been in the likes of Cats, Chicago, and of course, La Cage aux Folles. We're going to be catching up with him a little bit later on this morning. I don't know where he is. He's probably in the makeup room powdering his nose. So that's all to come live at 9:45. We'll keep you posted, guys. Come back to us later.
I hope you find your guest for that segment.
Now we'll have another look at your morning paper, starting with the Irish Examiner. It leads with 22-day election campaign to kick off today. The paper reports that Taoiseach Simon Harris will today officially begin a 22-day general election campaign to decide the 174 seats in the next Dáil.
The Irish Times lead with coalition to come under intense pressure on housing. The paper reports that the government is set to come under intense pressure on housing as the opposition targets its record in the opening days of the general election campaign.
Car insurance premiums rise at 15 times the rate of inflation. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. New figures from the CSO reveals motor insurance premiums are now rising at 15 times the rate of general inflation, with above average rises also found in the cost of eating out, going to the cinema and package holidays.
On to the tabloids, and the Daily Mail's headline reads, "Years before tourists back in asylum hotels." The paper writes that hotels are set to house asylum seekers and Ukrainian refugees for years to come, as the government can't say when they will no longer be used.
The Mirror leads with Liam Death 3 charge. The paper reports that 3 people, including a hotel worker, have been charged in connection with the death of One Direction star Liam Payne.
"He told me he would kill me" is the lead in the Herald. They're reporting that the woman, who alleges she was brutally raped and battered by MMA star Conor McGregor, told her then boyfriend she couldn't say who her attacker was because he told her that he'd kill her.
The Sun also leads with that story. Its headline reads, "I was brutally raped."
And finally, the Star goes with Connor's sex claims made up.
Now it's over to Shiva, who's someone very interesting over there with her.
Yes, guys, last night saw Maynooth's most famous resident attend the Irish premiere of Gladiator 2, and he received a warm welcome with a red carpet, adoring fans and a full-on Paul Mescal lookalike competition. Joining us now, wait for it, is the winner. It's Jack Wall-O'Reilly. Good morning, Jack.
Good morning to you. Thanks for having me.
Well, congratulations on your win. I assume you've been celebrating all night long.
That 20 quid went very far, thanks to good people a little, yeah.
They're very good. So tell us a little bit about how you got involved. Had you been told before that he looked like himself?
I think since Normal People came out a few years ago, it's been a pretty steady flow of, did anyone ever tell you look like Paul Mescal? So then when the posters went up last week for the lookalike competition, I got sent it a bit, put it mildly, so it would have been rude not to.
I have to say, I think you sound really like him.
Yeah, and he's a great looking guy, he's a great sounding guy, so yeah, I'm happy out.
Compliments all round,
There's
really,
worse
isn't
ones
it?
to get,
Absolutely.
for sure. Yeah.
So tell me about the competition. How many people did you beat out for first place?
Well, out of about 200 people, I'd say there's about maybe 5 or 6 of us who are actually competing, if you want to put it like that.
Okay.
So I think more people were actually waiting to see if he'd show up himself and they'd catch a glimpse.
200 people came to watch, though. That's a great audience, isn't it?
It was a great turnout. It was great for the town.
And tell me about getting into character for the competition. Like, were you in full ensemble?
Yeah, luckily I didn't have to buy too much. I had it all in the locker. So it was just, as I said yesterday, Paul Mescal is a state of mind. And I really just kind of zoned into being myself. And I think there's a Paul Mescal in all of us. So.
There's a little bit of him in all of us. I'm going to ask you to look straight into the camera so we can do a side-by-side comparison now, Jack. So the people, look at that.
Not quite as athletic.
I mean, a bit of hair gel and you're there, you know? And the winner, you actually had to deliver a line. So not only did you have to look the part, you actually had to act as Paul Mescal does.
Yeah.
So what was the line you chose?
I went classic. I think I went back to Normal People to when Connell sees Marianne and Trinity again for the first time, and he says to her, "You look really well." Short, sweet, straight to the point.
I honestly felt like he was in the room with us right there, Jack. That was incredible. So what's next? Where'd you go from here?
I'm going to enjoy this for about maybe the weekend, and then when it all blows over, I'll go back to writing and directing. That's what I do. I work in film and TV. So back to the grind.
Back to that. Well, Jack, huge congratulations again, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
After the break, we're joined by the Irish editor who has brought Paddington Bear to the big screen this weekend. We'll see you in 3.
Welcome back. You'll have seen our next guest's name in the credits of a rake of hit international films, including Kenneth Branagh's Death on the Nile, Belfast, and the new Paddington film.
BAFTA-winning Irish film editor Una Ní joins us now. But first, let's take a look at her latest work.
All right. Never mind the boat sinking. Marmalade was saved.
Exactly.
Welcome to the show, Una. Good to see you.
Thank you.
A new Paddington movie. So do we need tissues going to see this one?
You know what? You could bring a few tissues, should you wish, but it's more of an adventure film. Paddington returning to Peru and the Browns getting out of London and seeing what happens when they go to his home country on this quest.
Okay, but there's lots of laughs and
there's
lots
a lot of
slapstick.
laughs and a lot of references to Buster Keaton gags and references to different movies that you'll enjoy.
Oh,
Now,
brilliant.
Looking at the clip there, and Paddington is beloved by many. Some say children's film, some say for everybody, but it's a bit of a departure from your usual genre of film. What drew you to Paddington?
Well, short story would be my children and my nieces and my nephew, Mia, Jack and Ted. Jack in particular is 8, and I have to say a huge hi to him because he was the one who just said, you have to do Paddington, and my kids felt the same way. So I had done a lot of films which were probably more adulty, and I did 3 Girls, which is on Netflix, which had serious agenda. So it just meant when it came to me, I'm a huge Paddington fan anyway. And I met Dougal Wilson, my director, and Rosie Allison, the producer. And I just was like, yes, please, I would love to do this. So it was amazing, and I was really happy to do it.
Okay. So by the time it gets to you, it is because we know, like green screen and 3G, Paddington is there.
No. So I actually began in February 2023. And because it's an animation film, film editors, we normally begin on first day of principal photography, but for an animation film, you begin before they shoot because there's a storyboard or a huge dialogue and collaboration with the VFX supervisor, with the producers, the cinematographer. So I started then, and then when we started shooting in July, we already had a whole version of the film created from the storyboard. It's called like a preview or animatic, and it's fully, my assistant Nick Davis, he did it with all sound design, we had music, it just sounded and looked like a real movie.
So before it's actually, the first scene is shot.
Yes.
So much work is done and you're involved, and like how much of the work is in pre-production for it then?
A lot. So there's a lot of things that we did in pre-production which then comes to fruition because with a VFX heavy film you have to be very precise about what you're shooting. So when Paddington, if any children are watching, if Paddington was very
real.
Yes, he's a little bear, so he has to take his time. So it means that sometimes when they start shooting, first day of principal photography, there's a great actor called Lauren Barrant, and she is a little person who wears the hat and coat of Paddington. She's the same height as a reference. So she works with Hugh Bonneville and Emily Mortimer and Antonio Banderas, and it gives everyone an eye line. And as an editor, it gives me also the first take of every slate. Paddington performing with comedic genius, and that actually helps me. So that as we continue to build it, they begin to bring in Paddington.
Had you done anything like this before with animation?
No, but a lot of our films are very heavy VFX. So even when I did The Crown, for example, that was heavily green screen background. So almost every film that anyone works on in this day and age has an element of visual effects to it, even when you can't see it.
Okay. How much work, how much time goes into the editing?
So we began shooting in July 2023, and then we wrapped in October. And then myself and Dougal Wilson, he's my director, and we then did the director's cut until January. Then we showed the producers. Then from January until April, we began to hone it, refine it, working with Studio Canal. So everyone was lovely. The biggest thing about the Paddington family is everyone was just very collaborative and open. And then we began test audience screenings. So we didn't lock and finish the mix until October 5th.
Wow.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we were in the mix.
Under a bit of pressure.
Wow.
But like, so Paddington is obviously huge, but it's far from the first blockbuster you've done. In fairness, you have some CV at this stage. Huge collaboration with Kenneth Branagh. I know you're heading off to LA soon. How did your relationship with Kenneth Branagh come about? Because of course you did edit Belfast amongst others.
I did. So I did Wallander. I actually edited Wallander. So I have to say though that this beautiful woman was in college with me.
And you were in fourth year and I was in first year.
She was younger. She was younger. But Elaine was always shining bright. So I'm very proud of you. I have to say that.
I'm not as far as I am. Oh my God, mutual appreciation.
The word I heard during the break was stalker. That was the word I heard.
No, she was in fourth year, but you were always, I knew it then, she was destined for greatness because she was so dedicated to editing. You were tunnel vision though when it came to your career,
I know.
weren't you?
Well, I just love it. And it's like anyone who has sort of a vocation, I don't think there's anything else I could do. So thank goodness I actually can do this. But and I enjoy it. So I did Wallander. And again, if there are any prospective young people out there who want to get into the industry, I just was working my socks off. And then I think Ken saw my work on Wallander, and we actually created a version of a feature film of Wallander, which didn't take off. But then he knew me. So then he called me in to do his film. So this is, I think, if I include Wallander, it's like our 6th collaboration, but it's our 4th feature film.
Yeah.
The one I'm doing at the moment.
Yeah. And of course, Death on the Nile was one of those.
Yes.
You're doing something very special as well with Daisy Ridley.
Yes, I am. So if anyone has Disney Plus, I edited Young Woman and the Sea. And because of Belfast, Jerry Bruckheimer had his passion project. So Belfast was Ken's passion project. Jerry then got in contact with me. So he had a film called Young Woman and the Sea about the first woman to swim the English Channel. And I edited that. It's on Disney Plus for anyone who has Disney Plus. And I'm really proud of it because I think everyone worked so hard to bring this lady's story to fruition. She was only 19 and she beat all the records at the time, but her name hasn't been preserved in the history books. And this film tries to tell her story.
And you're off to LA for an Academy screening for this, aren't you?
Yes, on Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, busy. And you're working on something else now that's quite exciting.
Yes.
Are you allowed to tell us?
I don't know if I totally am, but I think I am.
Okay, well, we can ask
Go on,
forgiveness afterwards.
it's just between us and the rest of the country. Go on.
Well, I think I'm allowed to say that I'm working on Ken's new film, The Last Disturbance of Madeline Hind, because that's been out there in the press.
And who's in it?
Patricia Arquette, Michael Sheen, Jodie Comer, and Vicky McClure, and Tom Bateman, amongst others. But there's a beautiful, stellar cast, and it's another film that he's written, and I'm really privileged to be able to do that and to do that from home as well. So I can work from home, and then I have to commute. So it's I have to say thank you to my husband.
Yeah, he's on the school run this morning.
He's on the school run this morning. And without family helping all of us who are working moms, it's very tough. So a big shout out to all my husband and my mum and dad and my parents.
And I have to say the industry is in such a great place here in Ireland at the moment, isn't it?
Absolutely
amazing.
incredible.
We only saw last night, and what you're doing today, it's amazing. Is there any chance you take me under your wing again? I fancy a little stint around Hollywood. It's 30 years
She's
since
just trying to
we've done
get beside you on the plane to LA.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Not that I don't like being beside you, Martin, but
Well,
come on.
tell the truth.
Una, listen, it's lovely talking to you this morning, and
thank
you're
you.
staying around, I believe, are you?
I am, because I was going to say, if anyone sees Paddington, though, today, it's released today, just to do that little thing. And it's a great story for what constitutes home. And being a migrant, economic migrant, a war migrant, what constitutes home, and I hope people really enjoy it.
I'm sure they will. The last two movies were brilliant, and this one will be equally as good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you.
And you're
Very
sticking
nice.
around for a bit of cooking. They won't let me cook for some reason. I still don't know. Anyway, a reminder that Paddington in Peru is in Irish cinemas from today, and Una's other new film, Young Woman and the Sea, is available to stream on Disney Plus right now.
Still to come, we're holidaying in County Clare, and especially for Una, we've got French toast with a Paddington twist coming up very soon. We'll see you in a few minutes.
We've been taking trips around the country to discover what's on offer for a winter staycation here at home.
And who can forget my future Pulitzer Prize winning report from County Waterford last month? Well, people are still talking about it.
We are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This time, though, it's Alan's turn. We've sent him to the Banner County for a short break, and here's how he got on.
From the cliffs of Moore to the Burren and so many bustling towns, County Clare has so much to offer. And this time of year, it's a great time to visit. Today, I'm in the town of Ennis. So come with me and we'll have a look around. Ennis is a busy market town full of vibrant streets, traditional music and steeped in history. So I've decided to learn a bit more with an Ennis walking tour. Hello, Jane.
Hi, Alan.
How are
Welcome.
you? Thanks so much. I believe you're going to take me on a little walking tour of Ennis.
I'm going to bring you on a wonderful historical tour of Ennis, and we'll see all it has to offer.
And we're starting at the Abbey. So tell us a little about the Abbey behind us here.
Well, the Abbey is the real foundations of the town. I mean, it's an old town. It dates back to the early 13th century. So the friars came into Ennis, and, you know, under the patronage of the O'Brien king, who was here already, they set this up. And the town grew around it. I mean, you're just a little huddle of houses originally, but then over the years, the proper town of Ennis became established.
And so when people come to Ennis then, how long is the tour?
The tour is just over an hour and 10 minutes.
So if you're visiting Ennis, it's a great way to actually see the town, get to know it. So in an hour, you'll know exactly where to go, especially if you're going to spend a few days here.
Yes, and it really gives you an appreciation for the town's history.
And where are we going next?
So we're going to take a little walk up Abbey Street. We're heading down through the town to Parnell Street to the McParland building, which is one of the oldest buildings of the town.
Okay, let's go.
Okay.
So Jane, this is the Bowway, so tell us about this.
Yeah, it's a lovely example of one of Venice's little passageways, and a local mural artist depicted traditional musicians here on the Bowway, and it ties in with Ennis's music scene. We have a wonderful trad festival running just this weekend, the Ennis Trad Festival, so it's going to be great. The town will be packed for that.
So this is the place to be this weekend.
Yes.
So we're here in Marketplace, and Ennis was the main market town for all of Clare.
Yeah, people would have come from all over the county They would bring their livestock to trade in Ennis.
Be hundreds of people
Yeah,
here.
having the crack as well, but making the deals. I mean, here you've got the...
And this is what this sculpture's about. I love this. So this is two farmers making the deal over to buy a cow.
Yeah, the old way to seal the deal was to spit on your hand and shake hands. So that's what the farmers are doing in the sculpture.
It is absolutely fabulous. And there's still a market here every Saturday.
Yeah, there's markets still in Ennis today, yeah.
Okay, well, do you know what? I've had such a lovely time and a lovely visit to Ennis, and thank you so much.
Oh, you're very
Thank you.
welcome, Alan. You're so welcome.
Well, we had a great time here in Ennis, and it's a fabulous place to visit this time of year. But not everybody who comes here gets to hold the Liam McCarthy Cup. As we keep discovering County Clare, our next stop is the Shannon Aviation Museum. The Shannon Aviation Museum is a great place to visit and bring Shannon's rich aviation history to life. Jane, it looks absolutely amazing. So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, we're here since 2007 originally. We moved into this building here in 2011, and since then we've been gathering the aircraft, and some of them you can see around us here.
Yeah, so tell us a little about what we're looking at here.
Well, we're in the Irish Air Corps display hall, and this is a hall specifically dedicated to the Irish Air Corps exhibits. And here behind you, you can see the Cessna 172. It's called the Reams rocket. And this one is actually the oldest serving aircraft in the Irish Air Corps.
And you have a replica of a Spitfire, but you also have a Spitfire engine here.
We do. Well, the Spitfire engine, the Merlin, is part of the Irish Air Corps collection here on display. And the Spitfire cockpit was built by a chap in his garage in the UK, a guy called Richard Jones. And it took him 15 years, but all the parts in that cockpit there are actually original, so it's a replica rather than
the real thing. And I believe I'm going to fly a plane this morning.
You are. You're going to learn how to fly an airliner.
An airliner?
An airliner, a 737-800.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's go then.
Okay.
So Dave, you're my co-pilot today.
I am.
Okay, so tell me, what plane is this?
So this is modelled on a Boeing 737 NG.
A 737. So you're buying one of these new, and much is it costing?
At least $180 to $200 million.
So 200 million in my hands this morning. So we're going to actually take off and land. Is that the idea? Yeah. Off down the road to Bunratty Castle and Folk Park. And just across the road from Bunratty Castle is the famous Dirty Nellies. Pop in here for some great food, the perfect pint, soak up the atmosphere, and it's a great way to keep discovering County Clare. Sláinte!
Sláinte!
Well, you always get a really warm welcome in Dirty Nellies. But now it's time to go back to an old stomping ground I worked in many, many years ago, Bunratty Castle and Folk Park. So, Stephen, we're here on the main street of the Folk Park. So tell us all about it.
Well, the village street is at the top of the 30-acre site, and at the very front, which is, I suppose, the monument that most people are familiar with, Bunratty Castle itself, which is celebrating its 600th anniversary in 2025. But really a little bit back from the castle itself, you see what life used to be like in the old Victorian streets. And streets, you know, the 1900s in Ireland. You got your post office around the corner, you got your draperies, and of course we have our wolfhounds that will walk through here.
And the
on a daily
characters,
basis.
you have this every day, so the characters are here, the wolfhounds go for a walk. It really is like you're set back hundreds of years ago to a small Irish village.
It really is, but even a little bit better because it's the very best of all of the times, kind of when you go back into that era. But you have to tip the cap to Brendan O'Regan and his enterprising colleague kind of back in the 1950s when they recreated all of this, and such a job they've done.
Well, I worked there. It wasn't 600 years ago, but it was a good few years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm actually looking forward now to going down, put the costume back on.
Yeah, we hear you doing that.
And literally trying it once again,
Yeah.
as they say, for one night only.
For one night only. and I would say, Alan, that it probably hasn't changed an awful lot from when you were here.
Well, there's so much to see and do in the folk park, but the night is young and it's time for a banquet. So let's go and meet some of the world-famous Bunratty entertainers.
As I was sitting with jug and spoon on one fine day in the month of June, a birdie sat on an ivy bunch, and the song he sang was the jug of punch.
Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. Sorry to interrupt your rehearsals. Lynn, how are you?
Welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be back here. So tell us about the banquets here at Bunratty.
Well, we have a banquet here every night at this time of the year, and at the moment we're doing a rehearsal for tonight's banquet. We have a full house. So when people come in, they go directly upstairs to the Great Hall, where we do a welcome cup of mead, give a history of the castle, we crown a king and a queen, and then everybody comes downstairs to dine here on this level.
And it's a great night's entertainment.
It's a great night's entertainment.
Certainly
Are you going to
is.
join us tonight?
I know, well, I'd like to, but I doubt if you have a costume for me.
I do.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, no.
Here's one we made earlier for you, Alan.
Okay, so if the costume is here, I might remember a song or two.
I will.
Shall we give it a go?
And the song he sang was the jug of punch.
Well, as the fun and merriment continue inside, what a great way to finish my trip to beautiful County Clare.
Now, up next, a breakfast recipe that Paddington Bear himself would go crazy for.
Yes, there's marmalade French toast on the menu in just a few minutes.
Fáilte Gíreacht go IrelandAM now. We tasked Martin O'Donnell from Blackrock Cottage with a mission to come up with a traditional breakfast recipe with a twist.
OK, and he's taken inspiration from a certain bear who's heading to Peru this week with his choice of ingredients. So what are we making?
Marmalade was that curveball, but we've got a beautiful cinnamon French toast with warm marmalade, mascarpone cream and some lovely crunchy granola. So we're going to get stuck into it. This is quite an easy enough recipe. In the restaurant in Blackrock, we do serve French toast, so we use the leftover cinnamon toast that we make for the cinnamon toast, and absolutely beautiful, but you can use normal brioche. So in here I have 4 eggs. I'm going to add in 50 mils of cream, and this is going to be our eggy mix. And then we have 200 mils of cream, or milk.
OK.
So we just literally give that a lovely quick mix. We have our pans getting on and warm, so both on a kind of medium heat. And I'm just going to season then our eggy mix. So we have some cinnamon powder and some icing sugar. So 25 grams, 30 grams of icing sugar. We don't need too much because, again, our cinnamon buns are quite
sweet already.
Already. So
I'm surprised, to be honest, I'm surprised you have any leftover cinnamon buns. Like,
how are
there any left?
How are there any left over after a day? You must make a lot of them.
Come on,
we do. We make hundreds of them.
Oh, right, OK.
It's funny, the smell does be wafting down the prom every morning.
Just imagine.
Everyone is giving out to us, but look. So in with a nice hot pan. So we have some just normal vegetable oil. And then I have our cinnamon buns just sliced. Again, you can use your brioche. You could use normal bread, you know. Yeah. And I would generally leave it in here maybe 30 seconds just to get a lovely kind of get it stuck into it.
So you want them soaked through?
You kind of do, yeah.
OK.
But then you don't want them sopping wet that they're going to break when you're taking them out.
Yeah.
So, not going to drop in too much. So you can hear our oil is quite hot.
It is hot.
We just get them in. And it gets that lovely kind of sizzling. So our Paddington's part of this was the marmalade. So it was kind of...
Now, knowing you, we probably wanted to go off and make his own marmalade.
That's what I thought he was going to do.
First question, are we making marmalade today? No, not today. Marmalade is lovely and easy to actually make, but we've just brought along so people at home can still try the recipe. So I've got favourite marmalade, whichever one in the shop, and I'm just warming that slightly. And then I'm going to serve that with a kind of mascarpone whipped cream. So I've lightly whipped some cream, and I'm going to add in some mascarpone cheese, and that mascarpone gives a lovely kind of richness to it.
It really does.
It really.
Yeah, it goes so well with sweet stuff.
Yeah.
So that's just
But
cream.
I've used mascarpone to make like savoury dishes as well.
100%. And, you know, tiramisu, that's the basis of it. Tiramisu is the mascarpone. So I have some orange as well. We're just going to get some zest into our cream.
And sorry, did you pop some icing sugar in there as well?
I have a little spoon of icing sugar as well. I'm kind of keeping the sweetness a bit kind of low on this one because you just don't want it. So we have the orange zest going in, and you're just working that in. We're just going to set that one aside. So you can see our cinnamon toast. I'm going to kind of turn up the heat there to get the caramelization through. And I have some orange slices. So we've just peeled an orange, cut it into slices. We're going to just pop those into the pan at the last second.
Oh.
They're going in the pan as well.
They're going in the pan, so we have like a caramelized orange. So I can kind of see on the edge of this that you get that lovely colour on the bread. And that's exactly what you're looking for there.
Okay.
So we're just going to flip that one over.
And you have to like make sure they're cooked all the way through, or are you safe enough as long as you give them a couple of minutes each side?
Well, you're safe enough because there's nothing dangerous in it. It is just bread and eggs and milk and cream. So there is nothing too much to worry about. Now, little bit, tiny knob of butter.
And the lovely thing is there's not a single calorie in this.
No, not a Sunday morning, Martin.
It's guilt-free eating. No problem. Go for it.
And again, I'm just going to turn off the pan and let that kind of come in through, get the butter melted.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to pop my oranges
French
in.
toast. It's Martin O'Donnell French.
I know. I actually made French toast last weekend, and now I'm like, I did it completely wrong. Completely wrong.
There's no real wrong way, Shiva. It's quite simple. So we have our cinnamon toast, we have our oranges in, we have our marmalade, just lightly softened. And again, with that marmalade, it's a bit of a love it or hate it, Marmite or not, but I think you can add as much as you want. So you can kind of go a little bit mad with that. Yeah. So we're going to start to plate up. So I like to give kind of 2 pieces per portion. Put a little piece of orange in between.
Oh, hello.
Honestly.
It smells so Christmassy in here.
I know. I'm very grateful that Paddington's favourite food is marmalade right now.
Yeah.
This is a treat and a half.
We've got
and it's such a lovely brunch dish. We serve this all the time in Blackrock.
Yeah.
We might have to actually go to this Paddington recipe. Quite like it. It's actually grown on me. So we get our oranges and our cream on it.
And I suppose, we do need an expert to help us taste this, don't we?
So let's bring Una back in. Good to see Una. You see,
Thank you.
You see, you gave up the school run.
Yes.
To come in to talk to us about Paddington in Peru, and now you're getting a pimped-up Paddington breakfast.
Thank you, Maura. Thank you both.
Well, as the person most acquainted with Paddington Bear, you're, I think, the person most qualified.
I know.
To
I've
taste
been
this
living
dish.
all things marmalade and oranges.
So just going to put a lovely kind of spoon of our marmalade over that. And again, you can kind of go as mad or as little as you want, but it kind of cuts the sweetness also because it is that little bit tart.
Okay, but it's tiny.
And then we have some lovely kind of granola. So this one is a puffed rice, chocolate and hazelnut.
Wow.
So it kind of, again, you can use your favourite granola, whichever. Use your own homemade one. So.
Just give us the food.
all right.
It smells so delicious.
Enjoy.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I could pass that down as well.
And of course,
thank you.
Now that would have been the classic version of
Paddington.
That would have been what the Queen had around the time of the Jubilee.
We have a little glass of orange juice just for the whole orange-inspired theme.
Yeah, orange juice.
Thank you so much.
So
okay, let's give it a go. Have you
it
tucked
smells
in yet?
beautiful.
It
no,
does, doesn't
I'm
it?
trying to be polite. It smells really divine.
Oh yeah.
So lovely autumnal cinnamon French toast.
Oh my goodness.
She's a happy girl.
I'm an extremely happy girl. God, wouldn't that be lovely on Christmas morning?
That is beautiful.
Thank you.
That's so delicious.
We'll get the Paddington seal of approval, Una.
Totally.
Paddington marmalade.
I'll have to make this when I go home.
You can rest easy now, Martin. Martin, thank you so much. Full recipe details are up on our website, or you can, of course, visit Martin over at Blackrock Cottage anytime you like.
Okay, and good luck with Paddington in
Thank
Peru.
you so
It's in
much.
the cinemas
Thank
from
you.
today.
Thank you very
And
much.
thanks for coming in today, Una.
Thank you for inviting me. Good.
Still to come, Derek chats with former EastEnders star John Partridge, plus tips on how you can create the perfect cosy winter aesthetic at home before you put up the Christmas decorations. Stay with us. More of this. Yes, good morning and welcome back to IrelandAM, where our tummies are full and we're very, very happy.
Yes, indeed we are. Now, coming up this hour, we're talking to the woman who, fed up with adult films normalising the objectification of women, created her own website.
Shiva's again lounging about. She's having a very lazy morning.
Very relaxed altogether, isn't she?
You are also sitting on a sofa, I'll have you know. But anyway, good morning. Today we're showcasing the perfect way to add a winter aesthetic to your home before the living room is taken over by the tree and tinsel and stylist. Orla Nelligan joins us this morning. What are we looking at today, Orla?
Good morning. We're looking at how to make your home cosy this winter. So I'm going to be styling 2 room sets, and I'm going to be giving some tips to help you create a really warm and inviting winter interior without spending a fortune and without overhauling your whole home, just with some clever seasonal updates.
It is cosy. I'm finding it hard to leave this sofa, so I can't wait for those tips. Derek, what's going on with you?
Yeah, Gurmila, Shiva. Johnny, you fan of winter interiors?
Love winter interiors. Wrap up.
Absolutely. Anyway, we've been scouring the Sugar Club, and look who we found, the one and only John Partridge. John, it's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I think I need to help you out a little bit here. How about...
There we go.
It's good enough for Tom Cruise. It's good enough for you.
Your brand new show, Dancing Man, is up and running. You're bringing it to Ireland.
I am. How's your tap?
Good, not too bad at all.
Let's shuffle off to Buffalo's, Derek. You fancy doing a few later on?
We'll give it our best shot. Are you looking forward to coming here?
I cannot wait to come here. I always love coming to Ireland. It's part of my heritage. I am half Irish, so it's always good to feel feels like I'm coming home.
All right, OK, we're going to be catching up with John, and hopefully a little bit of a tap dance later on. You up for it?
You up for it?
I'm up for it. All right, back to you guys in the studio. That's how tall he is.
Tap dancing, I've seen it all now. Thanks for that, Derek. Of course, more from him later on. Now we'll have a final check on your morning paper, starting with the Irish Examiner. It leads with 22-day election campaign to kick off today. The paper reports that Taoiseach Simon Harris will today officially begin a 22-day general election campaign to decide the 174 seats in the next Dáil.
The Irish Times lead with coalition to come under intense pressure on housing. The paper reports that the government is set to come under intense pressure on housing as the opposition targets its record in the opening days of the general election campaign.
Car insurance premiums rise at 15 times the rate of inflation. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. New figures from the CSO reveal motor insurance premiums are now rising at 15 times the rate of general inflation, with above average rises also found in the cost of eating out, going to the cinema and package holidays.
On to the tabloids. The Daily Mail's headline reads, "Years before tourists back in asylum hotels." The paper writes that hotels are set to house asylum seekers and Ukrainian refugees for years to come, as the government can't say when they'll no longer be used.
The Mirror leads with a Liam Death 3 charge. The paper reports that 3 people, including a hotel worker, have been charged in connection with the death of One Direction star Liam Payne.
He told me he would kill me is the lead in the Herald. They're reporting that the woman who alleges she was brutally raped and battered by MMA star Conor McGregor told her then boyfriend she couldn't say who her attacker was because he told her that he'd kill her.
The Sun also leads with that story. Its headline reads, "I was brutally raped."
And finally, the Star goes with Conor's sex claims made up.
Now, there is some big news coming from down under. Australia's government has said they will introduce world-leading legislation to ban children under 16 from social media.
Wow, that's a big one.
So how is this going to work?
So they're putting the onus on the social media companies. So they will have to ensure the age of someone who's signing up to the app, and they will be penalised for breaching the age limit, but not the children or the parents.
Oh, so that's one way of making sure it actually happens then.
I think so, and because I don't think there's any other legislation anywhere else in the world. There's been a lot of talk, obviously, social media, screen time, it's all bad for children, but this is the first time we've seen something actually being enacted that would hopefully cut that down.
Of course, we have
putting the onus on the provider.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it hits you in the pocket, you're more inclined to actually play by the rules, aren't you?
But they're not hanging around with this. They're trying to push this through in the next week or so.
Yes.
Next couple of weeks. It will probably take a little while before it gets passed.
Yeah.
But they're certainly putting the legislation in place.
Yeah, they want it passed in the next 2 weeks because their parliament only has 2 weeks left in the year. So they want it in before the end of the year.
Well, we do have a youth mental health crisis, owners. It's worldwide, anywhere there is social media. I know I was talking to my niece before I went on air and she was like, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea.
No.
I mean, there's so much pressure.
Okay.
So much pressure. I mean, if you look at it, you're bombarded with, I know the algorithms on TikTok are quite addictive. You've got Instagram, you've got Snapchat, all of them, then they are. You're never off. Like, when do you get a chance to actually take a step back? So,
well, how many times do you see in any situation, and we're just talking about our own environment, where, you've got a few minutes. So rather than chat, you pick up your phone to see what's going on.
I know, but isn't that interesting? Your niece said, like, if even
that's
the
fascinating.
young people are saying that's not a bad idea,
Yeah.
you know, then I think that's a great sign.
But you know, morning, noon, and night, the alerts, the notifications. I have all my notifications turned off except for text messages. But I mean, it's bing, 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 bing. I mean, your concentration goes. Your whole life is kind of running on the hit, the endorphin hit of the next message, the next this.
And
the
if
next
there's nothing there, you're going, do they not love me anymore?
Yeah, I better put a new picture up.
Yeah, I know. Anyway.
Well, look, hopefully other countries follow suit.
Let's wait and see.
Let us know what you think. 0896
Oh, we'd love to know.
111. Now, after the break, we'll be exploring whether the adult film industry can truly be ethical. That's coming up next. You're very welcome back. We're about to have a frank adult discussion that might not be suitable for little ears.
Yes, our next guest is a woman who, in her 40s, decided to shake things up by creating a female empowering website called frolicme.com after she grew frustrated with how women tend to be portrayed in adult films.
Anna Richards joins us now to discuss whether the adult film industry can ever be truly ethical. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. We hear a lot of noise about pornography and the dangers it poses to perception of women, etc. And so what's the difference between what has been viewed as standard porn and what you produce as ethical porn?
Well, firstly, thank you for allowing me to come on and actually talk and explain really the difference. I mean, from my perspective, I wasn't from the industry and I couldn't ever understand why can't we actually both produce and consume porn ethically? You know, why can't we watch beautiful sexual films? So for me, it was always, from the very beginning, it was always important to focus on the consensual aspect, the well-being of everybody involved, that it's a very collaborative community that I have, so that when I actually produce my films, everybody is very understanding of what's involved and they actually have a good time doing it. And I think being a woman is probably one of the most important facts because I wanted to really focus on female pleasure. And I really wanted to focus on, you know, the positive, the joys of sex, and actually have something that was lust-driven and realistic. And I think that's something that for many people, they don't see anything that they really can understand when they see some of the imagery online.
You call the people in your films models rather than actors. You mentioned the female experience in this. I mean, it's blatantly obvious when a man is excited by sex and to the culmination of the act, but not so much with women. So how important is it for you to make that a genuine experience on your films, and how important is it to show that women are equal partners in this, because traditionally male-driven porn is quite aggressive looking?
Yeah, well, because I always felt that the mainstay of the porn that was out there, and I fear when we talk about porn these days, we're really focused on a lot of the tube site imagery that we come across, which is sadly what has actually shaped the image now of what pornography is. I mean, in essence, anything that's sexually arousing is porn. But now we say pornography and we've got that very explicit
gynecological
imagery.
almost.
I mean, it's a turn off. It's not a turn on. It's one click away and we see it in front of our eyes and it just, there's no context. We just don't understand it. And I really felt it was so important we focus back on female pleasure. We haven't been catered for as women. So for me, when I set about Frolic Me, I wanted to focus on female pleasure, women having the most incredible experiences, and it was focused for women and couples. By the nature of it being just great sex, men are coming and watching too. So I knew that the men would be interested, but I wanted this to be for women because when I was in my early 40s, which is when I launched Frolic Me, there was nothing out there. So I went, no, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to create these films and I'm going to go out and show what great sex is all about.
Okay, so you work in marketing. You have a background.
I did,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, well, you did until this.
Yes.
So with your marketing background, you would have tested the waters, shall we say.
Yes.
So how did your friends, how did your social circles react when you said, this is what I'm going to do?
Well, at first they went, go for it, girl. I mean, you know, what was incredible was the support, because at the end of the day, the friends have known me a long time. I've got children, and I said, you know, I feel this is important. You know, we can't keep saying we don't like what we see and sit back and do nothing about it. Let's go and disrupt this. Because I felt it was very important that we do show what great sex is about. You know, it's an incredible thing. It's so much part of our health and well-being. Why are we just showing it in such a negative context? So, yeah, I told some friends and I thought, oh, my God, I hope this works. But when I launched the site, I only had 20 films. That's all I could afford to...
Seems a lot, really.
Well,
sounds like a lot, yeah.
You know, it seems a lot, but if you go into the world of erotic sites and so on, 20 is like, well, not very much at all. I have over 500 now. So I thought, no, get the 20 out there. Let's see what sort of interest I have. I also have erotic stories. I have audio porn. I have galleries. I have an online magazine. So I wanted to show that sort of lovely plethora of erotic pleasure for people to safely engage in.
Mm-hmm. Who are your people on your set? Who are your models? Who are your crew?
My models, I have to say, are fabulous models that I work with fairly regularly.
Some of them are actual couples.
Some of them are real-life couples, married. Some are just partnered. Some are just very good friends. So it's always one of the very early things I say when I go, right, I want to create this very erotic scene and it's going to be a threesome and I think you'll be great in this. And I say, which guys do you like working with? Oh, golly, can I work with sons? Yep. So you know you're going to get the great chemistry. They know who they're going to be working with. You talk about very openly up front, this is what I want to sort of show. And it's actually an incredibly collaborative moment that you're sort of coming together. 30% you could say is maybe staged because it's like, right, we've got to be here in this set and so on. The other 70% is really where it rolls because I want to get that excitement of sex. Sex between those individuals is something. So I've just got to make sure that the team, which is mainly female, just keep up with the action.
And even intimacy coordinator as well.
Yes. Well, it's an interesting one because we talk about intimacy coordinators very much in the Hollywood now. Mm-hmm. But we were doing it way back without even realise that we were actually intimacy coordinators. So an ethical site will have someone, and we have always have a female very close where anything that's needed, stop for water, you know, or even the dramas, you know, the lid of the lube pops off, you know, and it's like, oh, quick, you've got to sort out the issues. But they're right there to actually make sure that everybody's happy and, you know, no need for any stops or anything like that.
Like we've seen movies that have been made about the adult film industry. Yeah. Mark Wahlberg made one back in the late 90s. And we just saw how manipulative that industry is. Are you saying that you've taken that manipulation out?
Well, I think so. But I think it makes a huge difference because, A, I'm not a man, I'm a woman, and I wasn't in the industry. So I've come at this in completely a different viewpoint of just going, I've done creative films in the past, but now I want to do them to do with erotic sex. My background was such that I thought, why can't I do this? I had a very clear vision. When I started, there was all of the 50 Shades of Grey books were out there.
It really opened the door.
And
really,
I thought, my goodness, if ever there was a moment where I thought, no, this is right. You know, women are very sexual creatures. They're ready for this. Yeah. I sat in the cinema at that very first film, and I mean, they were bloodthirsty for sex, and yet obviously they couldn't be an 18. It was so all of the sex was missing, and I went, but that's fine. You come over to the site, and there will be all of that fabulous sex.
That's all on your site. The kind of a step further from
all
that.
Behind a paywall, because again, that's all part of being ethical. Is actually being responsible about what I show. It's realistic, it's natural sex, but it's also all that good stuff is behind a paywall.
Yeah.
Because if any young eyes inadvertently came onto the site, there's nothing they really see other than reasonably clothed people looking as if they're in a passionate embrace.
Yeah.
Because for me, that's about being responsible, that we need to ensure that side of things is
So it's
kept
all under the
aside.
one umbrella name, is it?
It's all under Frolic Me.
Yeah. The magazine and audio.
The magazine, everything. You see, some people might like to, first of all, just step in and enjoy the stories. There's a free story membership. You can sort of come on and just read the stories, which are stories of the film.
Yeah.
And then there's the audio, so they can hear if they like to. And that's a very different, immersive experience.
Okay, listen, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's quite the education. Now, after the break, Derek learns what EastEnders star John Partridge has been up to since he left the streets of Walford. See you in 3.
Wow, that's how quick we move.
It was very stylish, too.
Very slick. Anyway, from the East End to the West End and everything in between, the one and only John Partridge is with us this morning. Good morning to you, John.
How are you, my friend?
Yes, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
John, what a beautiful setting here in the Sugar Club, and we'll get straight into it because Dancing Man, it's your one-man show, and you're taking it to Ireland, taking it to this club.
I am. Dancing Man, I guess it's a show about my heritage. It's a show about my family. I guess it's about my past, my present, and my future. You know, Derek, lots of people know me for lots of different things. You either know me from my EastEnders era, you might know me from reality TV. David's dead. We all remember that, don't we? Yeah. Or you might know me through my cooking life from MasterChef. But what I actually am at heart is a song and dance man. And lots of people kind of don't know that about me. I just finished my run of Everybody's Talking About Jamie in the West End this year, and that will have been my 21st West End show. And when I come out and I do my show like Dancing Man, there's always a large section of my audience that as soon as I come out and I start to sing, they kind of go, I didn't know you could do that, because they know me for lots of different things. So I guess Dancing Man is a way that I can sort of bring all these pieces of my life, these jigsaw pieces, and sort of assemble that puzzle and allow my audience to see me as a whole, you know, as the person that I actually am.
And you're so used to performing in such, in front of large numbers. Do you find that this is going to be all eyes on you? Like, it's a very intimate setting here, isn't it?
Like, I hate to tell you, but size does not matter. You know,
you said it.
It's what you do with it that counts. I love playing in venues like this. One reason I love playing in venues like this, because if you don't use these venues, you lose them. So it is really important to support local, small, independent art spaces. That is one reason why I love playing them. Cabaret is a genre like anything else, like ballet, like opera, like musical theatre. It's an art form. And sometimes it's really, really difficult. It's kind of easy to get an audience on your side when there's like 2,000 people there and it's a massive space and it's all blackout. You can't see anyone. When you come to a venue like this,
all eyes on
you can see everybody's faces. So you can see if they're like, oh my God, what's he doing? Like, you know, and that can be really, really daunting. But that's what I love. I'm kind of a jack of all trades. You know, I'll have a go at anything.
A master of them all, may I say. You got your break back when you were 16 with the great Andrew Lloyd Webber in Cats.
I did, yeah.
And I mean, from there, your stage career has gone from strength to strength.
See, that's the funny thing. You see, I didn't go into EastEnders till I was 36, 37. But as you say, I went into Cats when I was 16. So I kind of had a 20-year theatrical career before I sort of popped into people's consciousness. You know what it's like, sort of when you do something like EastEnders or anything that's like high profile like that, that's when a lot of people first get to know you. So that's actually what they think you do. And that's always that's what I'm always trying to, not change people's perceptions of, but I have to introduce them to this other part of my life. Yeah, because really, that's what I am. I'm a song and dance man. Yeah, that's what I've always been
I mean, we're talking the likes of Chicago, obviously Kathy mentioned there, La Cage aux Folles. I saw you in that. Incredible performance. I mean, do you really love being on the stage?
I guess it's somewhere that I feel I don't have to try to pretend. I feel very at home playing other people, I guess. An actor's job is to put on somebody else's clothes and to show other people what it feels like to be that person. And sometimes, for me, it's sometimes easier to be other people than to be myself. It's no secret, you know, I've had my own struggles, my own personal battles. And in my show, that's what I talk about. Because my story is not unique. You know, I've had amazing successes and I've also had spectacular failures. I've loved, I have lost, I've had important people in my life leave me, but that's all of us.
Yeah.
That's what makes us human. So when I come out and I do my show and I talk about my mum and I talk about...
And can we talk about your mum? Obviously, Bridget, and she passed away a couple of years ago.
I love it that you say Bridget.
Yeah, a tip woman.
Yeah.
And I obviously have been going through it myself. My own mum, I lost her 2 years ago. I mean, how are you finding that, John?
I'm now at peace with it, but it took me a long time. I talk about it in the show. I say, you know, some days... not as many as there used to be mine, but some days I wonder whether my heart will ever be put back together, because that's the thing about mums, right? They're always there, aren't they? Guiding you, teaching you, loving you. And in my case, she was always there for me. She was just always there. And it took me a long, long time to feel brave enough to stand on my own 2 feet. And this show is my way of showing them that I'm okay, and I did it, and I got through it, and I am able to talk about them now and feel them now, and it not break me and not hurt me, and I'm able to smile about it now, and I'm able to laugh about it now, and I'm able to joke about it now, because that's what my show is. It's fun, you know.
Fun, yeah.
And there's audience participation, so don't think you're going to come to my show and sit here on this table and be like, not participating, you're going to be up, you're going to be dancing, you know, because in a cabaret, it's very much a conversation between me and you. It's not just about me singing songs and talking about myself. You need to put some work in as well.
Celebrity Big Brother, you did it. You lasted 32 days. You said it almost killed you, John.
It did. It did. It did. It gave me PTSD. I'm not even joking. Not the being in captivity, but you try sleeping next to Gemma Collins for 7 weeks. That'll give you PTSD too. But because it was brutal. It was a brutal, brutal experience. I can laugh about it now. Yeah. But once again, that took me a really, really long time to see the funny side of it. But, you know, these things, they're all the tapestry of our lives.
And you turned around and won, you won
Celebrity
MasterChef.
Yes. And snatching trophies, still at this age.
Left, right and centre. We won't mention your age.
No, don't. He was like to me, how old are you again this morning? I was like, I'm not telling you that. So, some bits of me are 53 and other bits of me are considerably younger. How about that?
Absolutely.
But I loved the cooking. You know, I just got sober when I did MasterChef, and it was a very organic experience. I didn't expect to have that outcome. I had no expectation of what it was going to be. I mean, you try chopping vegetables when you've got the shakes at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's not an easy task.
No.
But I say, cooking the food from my past helped me to live in the present. And that's what it's about. It's about living in the present.
John, before we let you go, will you give us a quick tap dance? I know you're starring in Netflix Cleopatra as well.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's see him in action.
Come and check me out at the Sugar Club. January the 25th. You next.
There we go. TheSugarClub.com for more information online. Ticketmaster.ie as well. But for me and John, what a performance. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, buddy.
Back to you guys in the studio.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Derek. Thanks,
Jazz
John.
hands.
I was disappointed now that Derek didn't get his tap dancing on.
What happened?
We'll have to put it to him another time.
Maybe we should just go back very quickly. No, we won't. Don't forget, John Partridge's Dancing Man hits the stage, as John himself said, January 25th. Tickets are available at ticketmaster.ie.
After the break, we'll be showing you how to create the perfect winter aesthetic in your home, so don't go anywhere. Fáilteoir Rashka IrelandAM. Now, we've reached that point in the year where we're saying goodbye to autumn, but we're not yet ready to embrace tinsel. Stylist Orla Nelligan joins us and we're showing how to add the perfect winter aesthetic to your home decor. Good morning, Orla.
Good morning, Shiva. How are you?
Great, thank you. So decorating your home for each season has become a massive trend in recent years.
Yeah.
But how do we differentiate between autumn and winter decor?
Well, with autumn, you've got all that lovely seasonal decor. It's, you're gearing up for Halloween, so that's kind of sorted. So I always feel like these months in between or weeks in between get sort of overshadowed by tinsel, as you said, or fairy lights or Halloween. So it's nice to give it its own spotlight. One way of doing that is to, change up the colour palette. So keep it to your nice earthy tones like browns, creams, greens, greys. And obviously remembering that your winter decor has to work for probably January, February and March, given the climate in this country.
Yes.
So to pare it back a bit, to keep it fairly simple, but up the cosy factor with all your textiles and keep your colour palette away from the Christmas colour palette.
Well, this is the thing, because you don't want to go too Christmassy too soon either, do you?
That's it, exactly. Because,
Okay.
you've got Christmas is all singing, all dancing. So, you can bring out all that stuff in December, but give winter its own space.
And we're currently in a living room setup. It's one of the hardest working rooms in the house. What would be your top tips for decorating a living room space?
Well, yeah, the living room, certainly in my house, is the hardest working room. So it's really important to keep it relaxed and cosy and warm and inviting. And a really easy way to do that by season is to change up your textiles. So you can swap out your lightweight summer throws and cushions for heavier textiles. Like you can see here, there's a range of cushions here. Most of them are from M&S and Industry & Co. and a few sheepskin ones from Paul Costello. But you've got faux fur, velvet, boucle. This one's from Marks & Spencer's. It's a mix of boucle and wool. So as you can see, loads of textures. This is a woolen throw from McNutt Donegal. So yeah, it's about layering really all the different textures. And our sofa is a boucle sofa, and that's a knotted wool. So that works quite well in winter, that heavy textured material. This is from Easy Living Furniture, and it's a lovely dark green colour for winter as well. So.
And like this material, how is it? Like, how does it hold up if you have, say, kitties or doggies or?
Well, it being dark helps. If it was white, it would be different. But boucle it's heavy. It's kind of durable. So it's really not a bad texture for winter and for dogs, pets, and kids as well. Yeah.
Let's talk about a rug. Everyone loves a rug. Is this a nice way to bring in some coziness?
Yeah, it's a great way to bring in coziness because not only is it functional in winter underfoot to have a heavier pile rug, it's also soundproofing, but also a lot of designers would use a rug. They'd start with a rug because it can anchor a space. And I've chosen a very neutral rug here from rugs.ie, but actually you could go bold with a rug. You can make a statement with it. It can be a piece of art. And certainly rugs.ie have loads of rugs from Persian right through to geometric modern rugs. So, it can actually be a real talking point in a room as well as really warm and cosy.
I love the idea of bringing in a more luxurious rug for winter time.
Yeah.
Talk about this chair beside you.
Yeah, I love this chair. This is the Glen chair from Easy Living Furniture, and actually it's reversible. So if you've got small kiddies with sticky fingers, you can flip it and have it the tan leather side out, or else when the coast is clear, flip it over for a warm boucle. And
wipeable.
Wipeable, exactly. So it's very handy chair to have in your.
I love that.
Yeah,
the tones are gorgeous as well. And then finally, let's just talk about lighting and how important is lighting in terms of ambience.
Yeah, lighting is, especially in the winter months, very critical to get right. It's kind of like, for me, it's kind of like finding the right pair of jeans. It has to flatter and disguise in all the right places. So it's really important to turn off that big, harsh overhead light in the winter and change it for the ambient lighting. So, for example, like this little guy here, he's from Woodies, and I chose him because he's a coloured glass. So when you flip him on, he's lovely amber glow. So it's about creating those kind of pockets and corners of glowing light in the wintertime, and places you can read, and if you want to highlight your favourite piece of art or hide a corner, you don't have to turn a light on in that one. So yeah, it's about keeping it ambient.
Great, thank you for the living room tips, Orla. And now I believe you're heading over to Martin to help us with our hallways.
Yes.
Well, the hallway is an area in the home that we often neglect because it can be very hard to make it feel welcoming and cosy. Well, Orla is going to show us how to make the most of this space. And Orla, the thing about hallways is that sometimes there isn't an awful lot of space.
No, it's true. They're very often narrow corridor-like spaces in people's houses, and they can be poorly lit as well. So it's important to get the light in there, and that can be done with mirrors. You can bounce light back in, but also the humble table lamp, which I love.
Well, you've just been talking about it. Get the hard lights off.
Get the hard lights off. The table lamps are great because they make a big statement with a small footprint. So they can be small enough to fit on a bookshelf or large enough like this one to anchor a whole console. Yeah. And this console is about 2 meters long. It's from Easy Living Furniture. It's a weathered oak. So it's big. So you need a big lamp to anchor that. And a good rule of thumb, there's no hard and fast rules, but one kind of easy tip is when you're choosing a table lamp, the proportion is key. So it should be about 2/3 of the surface it's sitting on. So this is quite big because the table's quite long. So you can see it kind of balances it out a bit.
Okay. But we're also going from the outside inside. And I see that you've brought a little bit of nature with you as well.
Yeah, so I love connecting any kind of decoration I'm doing. I love connecting with nature a bit and bringing the outside in. So in this case, I've got some just foraged acorns, which are free. And this is free as well. And these owe me nothing. These branches have been around a while, but they just make a really lovely statement, I think, in a house. And you can pick them from a forest or a garden.
You could also add things like eucalyptus, you were saying, to things like this. Just to...
Well, eucalyptus is brilliant because it's one of those foliage that lasts a really long time. Even when it dries out, it actually looks great. And at Christmas, you can hang baubles off this. So it'll go a long time.
You see.
There you go.
Our winter decoration can become Christmas decoration. We've got a variety of candles as well at different heights. But when we come in, sometimes we want to kick the shoes off.
We want to kick the shoes off. So I have a pair of wellies here. I'll just show you. I love this console table because it's got a shelf underneath it, so loads of storage space. And in my house, there's very little storage space. So we've got baskets, lovely throws in there from Sarah Louise Interiors in Dundrum. But you can pop out, you can keep it more functional, pop out, put your boots in there. This is just another lantern from Seoul in Dundrum. But yeah, so it's great. It's got loads of space and
lots of baskets.
Lots of baskets
in there too. We can look. We don't necessarily have to put blankets
you can throw shoes in there, and
you could have your slippers waiting on you there if needs.
Well, your hallway always has loads of bits, I think. So baskets are great. You can just throw everything into the basket when someone comes to visit.
Somewhere to put keys, hide them under the acorns.
Yeah, exactly.
And I thought this was a bell.
It's a candle snuffer. Yeah.
And all of these easily available?
Easily available, yeah. They're all... And these... It's nice to have a staggered heights when you're decorating as well, just to remember. Because your eye, if everything's the same level, your eye isn't really drawn to anything. So staggering your heights is kind of key. It gives visual interest as well. So lots of different bits and bobs.
But yeah, I would feel very welcome and cosy if I walked into a hallway like this.
Yeah, well, in my house there'd be keys, there'd be all sorts of bits as well. But, every time someone comes over, we make it look nice.
OK, well, you did that really well today, and thank you for it.
Thank you very much.
For more information on Orla and her work, you can visit cornershopproductions.squarespace.com. It's as simple as that. Back to Elaine and Shiva.
Thank you so much, Martin. Now, coming up tomorrow, Olympic hero Mona McSharry will be talking to us about life since winning that unforgettable bronze in Paris this summer.
As the lines between sports and politics blur ever more, leading sports journalist Miguel Delaney will be explaining exactly what sport washing is and how it has taken over football.
Plus, legend of Irish broadcasting Don Conroy will be stopping by with his markers and easel.
And Love Island's Alberti twins will be teaching us to make pasta in the kitchen. It's all on tomorrow's IrelandAM. From 9.
I'm going to be practicing my owls for Don Conroy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Owls?
Yeah.
Well, Don's owls.
Yeah. Don's
very good with the...
We've had a rake of text messages in this morning about Paul Mescal. Oh, my God. The controversy. I love this one. Paul, if you're watching at home... this is from Kosh. Paul Mescal seems like a really good guy, but I'll always hold a grudge against him for helping bring back the mullet. But that's clearly because of Gladiator. It wasn't his fault he had the mullet.
He's a mullet in Gladiator.
Yeah. Mullet-esque.
Oh.
Mullet-esque.
I thought he had it before.
It was short and a bit mullety-esque.
Yeah, Tim is saying, if you're watching at home, could you please just let you know, my daughter and I are huge fans. Just let us know where you are. We're there.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the amount of teenagers crawling all over Dublin looking for the man last night was ridiculous.
Well, he did say he was going to Trinity, so I'd say Trinity came to a standstill.
Yes, it was like the Beatles.
Yeah.
Honestly.
One of our text messages said that, actually. Anyway, see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.